Hello and welcome back to a new watercolour video. In the last video I painted some little tutorials from this book and I want to carry on and do more practice of that because I really need to improve on this type of style and I want to do this type of thing. It's the woodland paintings only in little, they're kind of like little pebble shapes, and I think it would be really good practice to improve wet in wet techniques, tree drawing techniques as well. So I'm going to do a whole page of this type of thing. So if you want to get the book yourself, this translates to Painting the Secrets of the Forest in Watercolour, and it's by this artist here, Jennifer Lefebvre, and you can find her at Jenny Illustrations, and she's also got a YouTube channel of the same name, Jenny Illustrations. It's an absolutely brilliant book. If you haven't seen my previous video, I'll link it up in the top right corner of the video if you click on the eye. And I got this on Amazon UK. So I'm just taking inspiration from the book today. I'm not painting anything out of the book. I'm going to be doing my own designs. So if you want to paint along, I'll explain what I'm doing along the way. I'm going to be using this paper, the Canson Moulin du Roy, and I'm going to be using Daniel Smith watercolours. I'm going to tape the paper to a board and then it'll be fairly easy just to spin that around if I need to change the angle. I'm going to mix up a couple of colours to get started. So for the background I'm going to use the Moon Glow and some Undersea Green. I'm just going to experiment with different colours. So I'll use the Moon Glow for the sky background and the Undersea Green for the forest floor. And I want to make that shimmery, so I'm going to add from the little Fragments set the Rainbow Fragments. So let this soak for a few minutes to soften it. And I'm going to mix some of that in, both of those. I'm going to use a really small mop brush, it's not very big. This is the one I'm using, the Da Vinci Casaneo size 0. So getting the really watered down Moon Glow, I'm just going to try and paint a random kind of pebble shape for the top area. And grab some of the green. Then I'm going to get some of the green from the pan, which is a bit darker, and add a little more concentrated colour in there. Just dab it about. I'm going to leave that to dry and then just do a different one with some different colours. So I'm going to do a pinky looking one. So I've got some of the Wisteria and Rose of Ultramarine. And then I'm just going to do another 4 in different kind of shapes.
I just want to go out on a walk with you. Baby, you know I just like to talk with you. You don't have to tell me anything that's new. I just want to go out on a walk with you. I just want to see your shadow next to mine, sailing over pavement with our 2 outlines. I like to see the shape you're in from time to time. I just want to see your shadow next to mine. I just want to see the same things you can see, understand the meaning on a new degree. Maybe that could happen when you're next to me. just wanna see the same things you can see.
Okay, so that's kind of like the background atmosphere painted. So I'll leave that to dry and then start doing more layering over the top. Okay, so those are now dry. I've got a beautiful glisten on them. And what I'm going to do next is put in the very faint background trees. So you can barely see these ones. And I'm just experimenting and practicing because last time I did them, they didn't turn out very well and I just need more practice. So I hope this will be helpful and you can practice along with me too. So it's also experimental. It doesn't matter if it turns out wrong or bad. Some of them I'm going to paint on dry, just wet paint on dry, very, very faint. And some of them I'm going to do wet in wet. And yes, so I'm going to be doing the really, really faint trees in the very, very background. So I'm going to wet the whole thing. Just let that seep in because I think last time my paper was too wet and then the paint just spread out. I'm going to use a liner brush. This is a number 2 liner brush or rigger brush. And I'm just going to get some really watered down green. Yeah, it's spreading out too much. I don't want it to do that, so I'll just leave that to disperse. I think my paint's too watery. If the paint's more concentrated, it won't spread out as much, but then it'll be too dark. So I think I maybe need to use a lighter coloured green, but in a more concentrated form. That might work. So I've got some much paler greens here, or even Davies Grey. So I'll try this Davies Grey, see what happens. I think that's it. I don't know why I've just drew a straight line because they're not straight. I might have more success with this type of paint. So I need to start at the top and go down because if you can see it leaves, I always forget this, it leaves a big blob when you take the brush off. Yeah, I think this is a good discovery. Just use a lighter coloured green and then you can use it in a more concentrated way. And I think that's going to work. So this one's almost dry, this paper, and I'm using a lighter pink, which is cobalt violet. I mean, it could be better to just paint them wet on dry, just in a really faint application. Yeah, I think this is working better. And then if it's just a little bit too dark, I'll just take some of it back out. I think these ones are looking better than the wet in wet ones.
I just wanna go out on a walk with you. Could be 20 minutes or an hour or 2. Baby, you know I just like to talk with you. I just wanna go out on a walk with you. Baby, you know I just like to talk.
There we go, so that's the background trees, and I think all these on the dry paper are kind of more successful than that one, which is good because it's easier. So then the next layer of trees is, they'll be a little bit darker because these are trees further forward. So this is where I've got to really try and draw some kind of fancy shapes. So I'm not bothered too much about the bottom area because I am going to be putting more and more layers over the top. Yeah, I'm actually quite pleased with these. I feel like I'm getting somewhere. So it just shows how if you just keep practicing the same thing over, you do get better at it. So this time I've took it really slow, really careful, tried to get some nice tree shapes. So that's stage 2. So all these trees are just a backdrop for the main trees, which I'm going to draw at the front now. But before I move on to that stage, it's an absolutely beautiful day outside. I'm going to go out in the garden and read for a while, and then I'm going to come back and carry on. Right, so for the foreground trees, they're going to be much darker and larger. I'm going to darken these ones a little bit because they're just a little bit too faint, these ones. So I'm using a much stronger mixture of the Rose of Ultramarine for this one. Just washing my brush out and using a damp brush to just blend that bottom part out. And then I'm going to get a darker colour. I'm going to get the Jane's Grey, which is a grey colour that doesn't contain any black. And I'm just going to drop some little bits of that in because I just think it's maybe a little bit too pink. Oops.
Come on, soft, turn the key and cooler on. Push the pause for relief. Free pass, you don't even have to ask to be the cat in the sun. Someday I will see the whole view.
So I've made a right hash of this. I don't think there's any trees with a big triangular shape at the bottom like this, but I will try and go over it in more layers and disguise it a little bit.
I've got better things to do. Okay, to leave a little bit undone and be the cat in the sun. Be the cat in the sun. Set aside every empty spreadsheet line and loosen up on the grind. Simmer down, settle back and mess around. Be the cat in the sun. Someday I will see the whole deal through today. I've got better things to do. Okay, to lead a little bit.
Okay, so that's where I am so far. So the idea of this was just to practice kind of the tree shapes and getting the trees laid in there in the different stages, going back into the distance. Right, so now I need to add some ground. Now I don't want to focus too much on the ground because I'm going to do that at a later stage, practice just on the grounds. So I'm just going to add some very subtle forest floors. So I'm going to wet the whole thing again and add in a very soft wet in wet floor, just being very, very careful not to agitate the paint. Just want to wet the paper. So there's quite a bit puddled up. I'm going to absorb some of that back out because I just don't want it to be that wet. And then I've got some of the Rose of Ultramarine straight from the pan, and I'm going to drop it in. Then I'm going to get some of the Jane's Grey, which is a darker colour, and drop some of that in. So we're just letting this drift up on its own, and it's just creating a nice soft transition. This one's a bit tricky because I think I'm not going to go over the top of this dark brown much because I think it's just going to activate. So I'm just going to be very careful around that, just some little dabs. Take it up a bit further, try not to go too much on the trees. And then the burnt umber, which is the colour I used for the trees. You see how that's it's too wet. I'm going to quickly rescue that. So that was too much water. Dab some of it out. Try again. And then some little bits of the Jane's grey just across the bottom, just to darken the bottom of the picture.
In the sun, be the cat in the sun.
Now this one's a little bit different at the bottom, so I'm going to just paint little bits of foliage shapes in there, some little leaf shapes. This was the buff titanium and the piemontite, and the rainbow fragments just look amazing. That's definitely my favourite, I think, because of the colours. I also really like this one. These are the grainy ones. Yeah, so I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please give me a like, comment and subscribe if you have. I'm going to try and post every Wednesday and Sunday. I'm going to try and make a commitment. So yeah, so look out for my videos on Wednesdays and Sundays. And thanks very much for watching.